DeSantis is assigning the murder case of an Osceola County mother to a different state prosecutor. That's because of a public feud between Orange Osceola State Attorney Aramis Ayala and Osceola County Sheriff Russ Gibson. Nicole Montevallo's dismembered body was found in October on the property of her estranged husband's family. Surrogates from Democratic presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg are on a bus tour of Florida focused on preventing gun violence. Among those on the bus, Sari Kaufman, a senior at Stoneman Douglas High School who survived the mass shooting now almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, what's really important to know how Mike Bloomberg's record on gun violence and what he will be able to do as president. Just when he was mayor in New York, he was able to decrease the firearm deaths by 46%.
The bus tour will stop in Jacksonville this morning. 2 weeks after Lucky's Market announced the closure of most Florida locations, Earth Fare says it's doing the same thing nationwide. The natural and organic grocery store announced yesterday it will begin inventory for liquidation sales. Fox says Sunday's Super Bowl in Miami was the 10th most watched in the game's history. An estimated 102 million viewers tuned in to see the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the San Francisco 49ers. This is your Ocala Quick Minute News, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
A mostly sunny day today with a high 77 to 79. For tonight, becoming partly cloudy, low 59 to 62. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, warm and a bit more humid, high 81 to 83. Then an overcast night tomorrow night, low 68 to 72. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Kevin Snyder.
You're listening to AM Ocala Live on WOCA, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source. And Sunrise Automotive in the studio. We have Matt Gibbs. Morning, buddy.
How you doing? How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So I wanted to ask you, what'd you think of that Super Bowl?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty good game.
It was a great game.
So, were you rooting for Kansas City?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, I was a little bit more for San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know really why. I really didn't have invested interest in those teams, and I was actually excited for that because I didn't have to weigh in on a side and be disappointed. So I was pretty excited with how San Francisco was playing the first half. And then kind of what I wanted to see. I wanted Mahomes to have a good game. Well, he didn't have a great game, but he turned it on when he needed to. And they ended up winning.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, anytime that I can see something happen like 50 years in between championships, if I could see somebody like Boston Red Sox with how long they had to wait but still got their championships. When I can think of Chicago Cubs, the distance for their championships, then by God, at least at some point, maybe there's hope that someday the Cleveland Browns will do the same thing.
Yeah, well, there's always hope, brother. You know, the Bible says if there's a breath in a man, there's hope.
There's a breath in the man, there's hope. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke, we are all men, we are one man. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I enjoyed everything about it, the production, the pregame, and what they did to Salute America, what they did with the halftime show. I love the halftime show.
You did?
I enjoyed it.
I could see where you would like that.
I like that halftime. Did you watch the halftime show?
Yeah. I mean, it was part of the Super Bowl.
You know, a lot of people. I think one of the sports radio fans I am of Colin Cowherd. He's got a Fox. Colin Cowherd on Fox, and he was talking about how he liked the Super Bowl halftime show and he says, you know, he gets a lot of his football fans that say, the halftime show. He's like, the halftime show is not for specific small genre football fans. It's for the production of everything that goes into the Super Bowl because it's an event.
Right.
That it's an event. So the people that are of the 100.7 million was the number, I think, that watched the Super Bowl. You know, not everybody's into football, but they're into the event.
Right.
So they wanted to see the halftime show. That's almost who the halftime show is for. It's like a nice break. Here's football. Here's 12 minutes of something else completely, and then back to football. That gives it a nice break, which the halftime is. Halftime should be. And I didn't mind those two females on stage.
No, I can see where you, you enjoyed that.
Jennifer Lopez, 50 years old. I've been seeing memes that say, man, like shows a picture of her on stage at the Super Bowl. It says, 50 years old, and then it shows a picture of some woman who's like, and when I'm 39, I feel like this, and it's like an old woman who's fallen and can't get up, and it's like, man, setting the precedent there for what half a century in age is just a number.
Yeah.
Oh man. But anyway.
But I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed I enjoyed I really, for whatever reason, kind of like just what Patrick Mahomes brought to the game of football.
Yeah.
He's able to do things that nobody else has ever been able to do, and it's cool watching him perform.
Yeah, and I can say that he was a rookie in a Super Bowl that first half.
Yeah, the first half.
And then it started to come together. You saw some of his decisions. I told my girl, I said, now what they need to do is, like, he looked a little shaken up in the first quarter, first couple of possessions. I said, what they need to do is just give him like a couple quick passes where he can just make a couple completions and then feel a little bit better. And sure enough, they started doing that, couple quick slants here and there. Although they were moving the football, there's certain decisions that you could see he was like overthinking some stuff. But I never thought Kansas City was out of it. Not once.
Nah.
Not
Well,
once.
I did. I honestly did. When it was like 8 minutes left and they were still the same 10 points down, when they were still the same, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
here it is. But then all of a sudden, when the defense, when their defense held the 49ers and they got that 3 and out, that's when it started. That's when you thought,
you're like, all right, because I don't think the San Francisco offense was going to be able to continue to capitalize. You almost knew that because it was 10 points, and I thought, well, if they get a field goal, if Kansas City gets a field goal on that drive instead of a touchdown, I think 49ers have a chance there because they're still carrying the tempo. The defense would be, complimented for holding them only to a field goal. Then they get the ball back, run out some more clock, move the ball. But instead they got the touchdown. Now they're only down 3, and everyone's like, yep, that's it. All they got to do is kick a field goal, and we got a tie game. Oh, there's the touchdown. Now they took the lead. Done. Awesome. How's the automotive industry?
It's busy. It's very busy now. Yes.
Is this one of the times of years that it does get busy because people now with the tax returns and stuff will start to have more expendable income to spend towards getting some things fixed on their car?
Yeah, and where it really gets busy for us is the taxable income that people get. We see in our industry, we see people tend to buy a new vehicle or a newer vehicle. So now we do several stuff for we do a lot of stuff for several dealers in town.
Oh yeah.
So that increases our business for dealing with stuff with them.
Yeah. Well, we got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air with Matt Gibbs, Sunrise Automotive. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, guys. See, Matt, my wife's got a 2012 Nissan Rogue. It's got around 87,000 miles on it. She lost the manual, the handbook on it. When should the timing belt or chain be looked at?
If it's a chain, Hugh, you never have to look at it. You don't deal with it. If it's
I don't know if it is or not. I'd have to probably call the dealer.
Yeah, the timing chain. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yours is a chain.
Oh, okay.
So if you swing by the shop, is it a 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder?
I think it's a 6.
Okay. More than likely, it's a timing chain, so you don't really have to deal with it unless there's an issue with it.
Why do some cars have a belt and some have a chain? What makes the difference there?
Manufacturing.
Yeah, price of manufacturing.
Yeah, it's just
chains more because it's money with the metal.
So
if it would be like a belt, about what mileage would you recommend having it looked at?
Typically about 90,000 miles is when you.
What 90? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And what did you say you're at? 27, Hugh? 27,000?
No, 87.
87.
She's at 87. It's a 2012 Nissan Rogue.
Okay, so he's coming in the wheelhouse of maybe if it was a belt, having that looked at.
Yeah, it would definitely be.
Nissans more typically have something like a belt or a chain, do you think?
Most of them are chained.
Is that right?
Yeah, most of them are chained. And the thing about it, is, Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
With a belt, a lot of these engines are what we call interference engines. So if the timing belt breaks, then what happens is the pistons and the valves, they kiss each other. And when they kiss, it ain't a good thing. It's a bad thing.
So
if you do have a timing belt, and if it's any of us out here driving around, if we got timing belts, we really need to pay close attention, because a $500 to $700 timing belt replacement, which we do, is a timing belt. Typically, we replace the water pump because they're turned by the timing belt, all the different pulleys and whatnot and tensioners. We do it as a kit. We do them all. So everything that has to do with the timing belt is new, but it's way cheaper than putting in a $5,000 motor.
Yeah, a brand new motor, which is, and even for those miles for the year of the car, you're still looking at a pretty nice frame and nice car, nice interior for having that go out. So you have to replace the engine.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. What I'll do is I'll call the dealer and the service department and find out exactly what we got there. But hopefully it's a chain.
Well, you can call the shop too. You can call over to Sunrise, talk to Tom or Richard, give them the VIN number, and they can run the VIN number and tell you exactly what motor you have in it.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Yeah, excellent. I wondered that too, because I've heard of pretty much nowadays most of them having timing chains.
But there's still quite a bit of the timing belt. The Hondas still use a lot of belts. Toyotas still use a lot of belts.
And I think they do. A lot of people say, well, that's as soon as you change that belt, you're good for another 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
And that's I think where Honda was one of the things. I've owned a 92 Accord. My girl had a 2010 Civic, which, by the way, 2010 I think was the worst year for the Civic. Not the engine. The engine's bulletproof, but everything else, it wasn't even 7 years, and that thing was just decaying as if it was like made of paper.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's almost as if like with those Hondas, that was one of the biggest things with selling it. It was like, well, has the timing belt been changed? Yeah, it has. Oh, shoot, then we're good. You want cash now for exactly what you're asking for?
Well, Honda's the one manufacturer that, as a shop owner, Honda has done an excellent job educating their customers.
Oh, yeah.
They have really... They push the issue of maintenance and service, and they will tell you what happens with a Honda if you choose not to replace your timing belt.
Yeah.
This is what it is if you do. This is what it is if you don't.
That's awesome. I don't think I've ever asked you, what kind of car do you drive?
Toyota.
Do you?
I have a Toyota Sequoia.
Yeah. What year?
Mine is a 2010.
Yeah. So you've had it for some time?
Yeah. I actually know. I've had it for a few years. I actually bought it from my next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that car is absolutely wonderful. Now my wife, she drives a Cadillac Escalade.
Okay.
So there was some GM blood running through these here veins, boy. You know what I'm saying? Being brought up, that's where I was at. I was always a GM guy.
Yeah.
And now. GM is in Ford and Chrysler and Honda and Toyota. There are a lot of similarities between all the manufacturers now, but it just seems like being a dealer, it just seems like the Toyota products, they hold way better value. My car has 170,000 miles on it. And I'd get in that car right now and drive it anywhere that we can drive. And every single thing works in the car. Everything.
Yeah, beg my pardon. I know.
My host is over here. He's going through the trash, y'all. If you could be in here he's going through the trash. And I
had something that I printed out yesterday that I want to talk to you about, and I was like, I think I threw it away already because I couldn't find it. But what it was, when you mentioned GM, they had a Super Bowl commercial with LeBron James. That they're going to introduce. I think it's not till May that they're going to introduce it, as when you can see it. But they're going for a full electric GMC EV Humvee, or Hummer, civilian Hummer. And it's interesting they got LeBron to do that. I remember, because being from Akron, Ohio, and He's 1 year younger than I am.
Oh.
And the high school he went to, my parents went to, or my mom, my aunts, my uncles, even my grandfather went to the same high school that he ended up going to. I had a choice if I wanted to go, but I didn't want to do 4 more years of Catholic school, because I already did 8 years of Catholic grade school. So I chose public school.
Huh.
But with that, I remember right after high school there, when he got drafted and everything, that's what he drove around with his entourage, was one of those big
old
Hummers. And I remember when I had moved to California after I graduated high school, that's when they had started to come out. And I remember the mall that I had worked at had brought in like 4 of them, and they were showing them, showcasing them and everything. And it's funny because he drove, man, he must have drove that for, I know he drove that the entire time he was in Cleveland, and he was in Cleveland for, I think, for 7 years of his career before he went to Miami.
Right.
And I thought it was interesting they got him. What do you think of a full electric GMC Hummer?
Well, that's going to be, because they have it in, they already have, well, no, it's not full electric, but it's a hybrid.
Right.
Mode
They
2.
have a hybrid version out right
Right,
now,
and the Tahoe.
Tahoe and
right.
the Suburban.
Well, in the Yukon.
Yeah.
And I've had some dealings with them.
Yeah.
The full electric,
So let me see if I can pull it up here.
do we have the battery issue solved? Is this, is this something that we really have overcome?
I don't know. They have expanded tenfold in the direction of not perfect, but with Tesla and what they've done. And because remember he had I think he had released the patent, if I'm not mistaken, on, because his idea was the car and being electric, and then also allowing that information to be studied. It's not like he patented it, said sole monopoly on electric cars. Like, he wanted to give it out. I think, quote, it was, if you're on a sinking boat and you have all the buckets, don't you want to hand out the buckets?
Right.
So that way everybody can help toss water overboard. So the idea was, like, with whatever technology it was with his batteries coming through, like, which were, I guess, pretty solid, and they're getting better or something to that extent than some of these other vehicles, that it's going to be just as good.
Right.
I don't know, though. I don't know. It's interesting. Where was it? Was it this one? I was going to go over what it had said for some of the stats it was putting out for foot-pounds of torque and all this stuff. Let me see here. I think I'm on the right one. It looks, the front grille that they've shown looks pretty interesting. Here it is. So up to 1,000 horsepower, 11,500 foot-pounds of torque, and 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3 seconds. The GMC Hummer EV is in a class by itself. That's interesting.
It is. Now,
I don't know.
I wonder how much that vehicle cost.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm going to worry. Yeah, it hits the market. I'm sure. MSRP, what, 95,000?
It's going to be
You think it'll be over 100,000?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, because even like if you're going to use GMC, let's say. So what I'm wondering, and I got to find out. I got to do a little research. Back in the day, several years ago, GM sold the rights to Hummer.
Okay.
To a company in China.
Interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Okay. So how did we buy this? Did we buy the rights back? Do we now own Hummer again?
Right.
I haven't heard.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I'd like to know.
And
and Hummer was its own company.
Own
it was
company.
Now it's a GMC.
GMC.
Hummer.
Right. Which is interesting. Which is different.
Right.
But yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. Like 1,000 horsepower, 11,000 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Yeah, that sounds expensive.
But see, something like that needs
fun.
Flowmasters, man.
Yeah.
You need to have that sound.
Yeah, somebody called in the other day when I brought this up yesterday. Might have been Hugh. He calls a lot. It's something about the idea of a Harley now coming out on an electric bike.
Yeah.
So What you miss is the sound, the rumble.
And it's not a Harley.
And he would go, he's like, I like that sound, potato, potato, potato. And I said, really? Yours sounds like that? Mine sounds like this, potato, 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 potato. But,
wow, we're grasping for straws now, bro.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source. So it's tough when you're in here by yourself in the mornings. There's not a soul in the studio when I'm in here in the morning, so like I said, I got the mannequin Steve there. Like I told Caroline a little dad joke. I said, I talked to him, but he's such a stiff. Anyway, if you'd like to call in, we got 5 minutes before the bottom of the hour. Matt Gibbs from Sunrise Automotive, 622-9622. Give us a call if you got any questions. We were talking about how some cars have a regular belt, a timing belt, and some also have timing chains, and when that should be looked at to be changed if it has a regular belt. And then if it's timing change, you're probably good. Probably good.
Yeah, you'd be good unless there's an issue.
Now, I wanted to ask you this. We got a few minutes left and figure out. Well, actually, we got a caller. I want to take a caller here. And good morning. You're on the air with Matt Gibbs.
Good morning. This is Mark.
Good morning, Mark.
Yeah, Matt, on the electric cars, with one of the problems they're having, I don't know what the weight ratio would be between the motor and the battery, but right now the range is about 200 plus miles. Could they put, say, an extra battery in the car that would be a backup battery, pretty much like the big pickups had when they had the 2 tanks on it,
Right.
And then when one battery run down, you could go another 200 miles. At least you could get to another charging station. That would give the range of that car about 400 miles. I think that would be possible if the weight of the battery was not a hindrance.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. I think anything's possible when you got enough George Washingtons to go along with it. You know what I'm saying?
Washington.
So Benjamin. Lots of George Washington.
Thanks for the call, caller. What I think is interesting is if we're talking electric cars and kind of like you mentioned, like a backup battery, if you're getting low to get the next charging station. So let me pull out this question. All right. Don't we have to work out the logistics first of where the charging stations are and how you do charge before we start? So what's going to be the expectations of this and how you charge?
Right. See, like what I see on that screen right there, you show me horsepower, you're showing me foot-pounds of torque, you're showing me from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3 seconds, but it only goes from here to Gainesville.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how does that, like you say, how does that work?
And then where's the charging stations along the way?
How long does it take to charge?
How long does it take? Because I think that was one of the issues with Tesla. If you can plug it in your garage overnight, you have a full charge. How far does that get you?
Right.
Doing a cross-country road trip nowadays is not advantageous.
Right.
I just saw again last week National Lampoon's Vacation, the original one,
right.
and they're driving through the middle of the Arizona desert. And it's a road that's closed, and he jumps the thing. He goes, Dad, you must have jumped the car almost 50 feet. It's not something to be proud of, Russ, but yeah, you're right. I think it was about 50 feet. So when you're out there, how does that work? Because sometimes you have to chew the seat a little bit with your butt cheeks when you know you're driving through there and your fuel light comes on.
Yeah.
So what does that mean when it comes to the logistical idea of getting these things charged? And then what does that take? Is it the same click-in as it is Tesla? Could I use a Tesla charging station for this? Are we going to come up with universal charging stations?
And they probably would, just like they do at Universal. The gas filler handle fits on all the cars. So, and I just the other day, one of the dealers here in town bought a truck that ran on CNG.
Okay.
It wasn't born with CNG; it was an add-on. So the dealer asked me if I could take the CNG system off.
Yeah.
So the CNG tank is probably as long as this big around.
Holy cow!
But that's only 3 gallons, and if the car gets 20 miles to the gallon, this big old monster tank, do the math.
Yeah.
You don't get very far.
Well, thank you very much,
Yes,
Matt.
sir.
Thank you for the callers. We're going to be coming to the bottom of the hour here. When we come back, Justice League Estate Sale. You're listening to WOCA Ocala, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Chris Foster. After months, in some cases more than a year of campaigning, the Democrats' Iowa caucus results are delayed. The plan was to release raw count totals for the first time and use a new app for reporting the numbers by precinct.
Some precinct captains reported trouble downloading and logging into the app. The Iowa Democratic Party said the data they did end up receiving showed inconsistencies, and they had to review the paper trail for accuracy.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal in Des Moines, Iowa. More than 20,000 cases and 427 deaths are reported in China from the new coronavirus spreading there.
World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus urging cooperation.
The only way we will defeat this outbreak is for all countries to work together in a spirit of solidarity.
The White House says China has agreed to allow U.S. health experts into the country as part of a world.
We call it post-traumatic stress disorder, and it affects